We're here with Dr. M.R. White, former president of Pearl River Community College. At that time, it was Pearl River Junior College.
Right.
And that time period, 1967.
Yeah. 68 to 86.
68 to 86. For the viewers who aren't familiar with you,
Yeah.
Give us your date of birth, your place of birth, where you were educated. Just give us a little bit of your biography.
I was born here in Poplarville, and at the age of 2, we moved south of Poplarville to a little community named Nortack, a little farm, and I grew up there. I went to Poplarville High School, and then the 10th, the 11th and 12th grades were over here at the college, Poplarville, Pearl River County Agricultural High School. So I graduated from here, high school here in 40, I believe it was. And then I started college here. That World War II began. And they had the ROTC unit here. And Colonel Summers was the head of the ROTC program. And he encouraged a number of us boys who were eligible for draft to enlist in the inactive enlisted reserve corps, which we did, most of us. And I graduated from junior college here in 1942, and we graduated on Sunday, and Monday we were at Camp Shelby in the Army. And I was sent to Port Eustis, Virginia for my basic training of 16 weeks. And then I was shipped to Fort Stewart, Georgia, where I stayed for that number of years. That was the anti-aircraft division. We trained and trained and trained. It didn't look like we were going to go overseas, and every week I'd get the Weekly Democrat, and 2 or 3 of my buddies had been killed in the war. So I decided I was going to get out of that outfit. And I saw on the bulletin board where you could enlist in the infantry. So I enlisted in the infantry and was sent to Fort Sumter, South Carolina. And I was in the infantry. And they were prepared to go overseas, and I thought that was just terrific. But when we started the training, I saw that a number of those people were not capable of, in my opinion, of going to war. So I looked for an out of that situation, and I saw on the bulletin board where the paratroopers needed volunteers. So I signed up for that immediately. And I was shipped to Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, Georgia, for paratrooper training for about 6 weeks. And then was assigned at the 13th Airborne in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And we trained. We went overseas. We're in France for about 9 months. And then we came back to the United States and were given a 45-day furlough. And that's when I got married. And the war ended when they dropped the atomic bomb. So we were released. With the paratroopers was a wonderful organization. They had esprit de corps. They were ready. And after the war, we went to Millsap College in Jackson, and wife worked while I went to college, and we were getting $90 a month for service time, and we made it through. I played football in high school and junior college, and I made the team up there, and that was a wonderful experience. Got out of college, got a bachelor's degree with a major in mathematics, and I wanted to coach football and teach math. So I got an opportunity to go to Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and I went there for $2,700 for 9 months. I coached football, basketball. I had duty before school started, duty at lunch, and I taught 5 math classes, and I was glad to get it. But 1 year there, the opening came at Poplarville High School for a football coach, and I came there for a year and started the next year, and I got a message from the Armed Service Department saying, report to Fort Hood, Texas in 3 days. And I had never had any contact with the Army after I got discharged. But when I enlisted inactive reserves, I was put in that category. So I went to Fort Hood, Texas, and we tried that. When we got there, a colonel had us on antenna. There were men from all over the nation coming in there. There was a Korean War, and they needed some extra troops. So they brought us in, and the colonel said, you're going to be here for 10 days for a refresher course, and you're going to Korea. There's no changing of that. Don't call your congressman or anyone else, because it's not going to do any good. So we trained for 10 days, and they fill us out in a quadrant. They started calling names, and when they finished, there were 5 of us still standing there. And they said, fall back in the barracks, you're not going. And because I had been a math teacher and had a major in mathematics, they sent me to Fort Miles, Virginia, and from there to Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And I pulled duty there for 9 months and was discharged again. And I took a civilian job doing the same thing. One day I got a message from Dr. Johnson asking if I wanted a position as high school principal here at the junior college. And I was thinking about it, and my wife says, Bud, I want to go home. I don't want to raise my children up here. So we came home. It's the best move we ever made. And I was high school principal for about 6 years. They built a new high school here in Poplarville, and they moved the high school to it.
That was in 1960, right?
Yeah. And Dr. Johnson says, you want to stay with us? I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, you can be registrar. I did. I held that a couple of years. Became the academic dean. Held that for 6 years. And when Dr. Johnson was elected state superintendent of education, I became the president. And I certainly enjoyed that.
Dr. White was here during the Hurricane Camille, which was a extremely disastrous storm that struck the Mississippi Gulf Coast on August 17, 1969. It did millions of dollars worth of damage to the coast, completely rearranged the coast, and then came on through Poplarville and did quite a bit of damage here. Dr. White, were you present in Poplarville during the storm?
Yes, yes, the wife and family and I were in the president's home all during the hurricane. We watched Channel 3, the Biloxi Gulfport television, until it went off about midnight. And we did not anticipate the storm being that bad here, but after seeing what happened there, it was about an hour before it hit here, and it was devastating.
And did you stay up all night?
Well, may as well, yes.
And when you got up the next morning, what did you find?
Well, that night when it calmed down, the sun and I, Calvin, walked around and looked to see what the damage had been done. And we were just amazed at how much damage was done. Batson Hall, which was a girls' dormitory, the top was blown off completely. And most of the top was in the president's home yard, backside. The tile came right on up to our house where we were in. And Miss Joyce Smith was the dean of women, and her daughter Anna Carrion were in the dormitory. They're the only two that were in the dormitory at that particular time. It's about 2 weeks before college was supposed to begin. And we went down in the dormitory looking for her, and we found her and her daughter in the bathtub in their apartment. And they were not injured. We asked them to come to our house, which they did. And next morning we surveyed the situation, and there was not a building here that the roof was not either blown off completely or severely damaged. We had good insurance, and the insurance company called us and told us to get as many contractors as you can get to come in there and cover the roof immediately. Saturday, Sunday, doesn't make any difference. Get it done immediately. So we did it. We had several large contractors came in, and in a few days the buildings were covered, and then they began to repair them. As I said, it was 2 weeks before school started, and we moved the girls that were coming in into Pearl River Hall, which is a boys' dormitory, and they lived in the double bunks, and were just delighted to get it because where they were living on the coast in particular was not good. So they were glad to get in school where they had hot meals. We were fortunate that the water tank here was almost full of water, and we had water. Did not have any electricity for a long time, 2 weeks or more. And the faculty cooperated 1,000%. Some of them had chainsaws, and they sawed up the trees that were on the streets and moved them out. And one day of the week, the faculty row would say, "Come to my house today for dinner. I'm going to clean out my deep freeze before it spoils." So everybody come and enjoy themselves, and they did. It was a cooperative effort of faculty, contractors, workmen, and everybody. We were ready for school to begin in 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
It was
And
then.
the children participated too.
They used the science building as a center, and they flew in by helicopter aid for the people in this area. And they had clothing, they had food, and you name it almost, and it was there. And the people from surrounding areas would come in and get clothes and food and whatever. And my daughter was working in there. One day a lady came in and she was looking for some pillowcases. So she got a couple, and the lady says, "Well, look, they don't match." And she said, well, she quit right then, said if they wanted the match, they didn't need pillowcases. But it was an exciting time, and as I said, everybody worked together and got this college back in order, and we began school in 2 weeks.
That's incredible. How long did it take you before you were back completely and fully in working condition?
I would say 6 months.
Okay.
But we had food and water. The Red Cross set up a food center here at the cafeteria, and the people from the surrounding areas could come in here for lunch or breakfast or whatever. You know, they were open 24 hours a day for food. It didn't take too long to get it back in order and going, but it was a cooperative effort.
Couple of things that I want to ask you about. You were here during the time that Pearl River was more of a military school than a agricultural high school, I understand.
Well, during the war, there's a lot of emphasis on military training, and this provided some jobs in the area, and it was good training, just excellent training for those who were going into service.
So it was pretty much a military high school then.
Yes, oh yes. They wore the uniform. We got to wear the uniform 5 days a week. You wore to school, and everyone was dressed alike. But wasn't any tolerance.
And also your stint in the as a paratrooper, you saw action in Europe.
I didn't actually see action. We were there. We were alerted one time when General Patton was going into Berlin, and the powers wanted Russia to go into Berlin first, and they asked him to stop, and he didn't. So they let him run out of gas. And if he met any resistance, we were good to jump and protect him. We went to an airfield out, it looked like it was out in the woods, and got our ammunition, make sure our weapons operated correctly, got all the gear that we needed, and we're going to jump about 2 o'clock that morning. But about 12, they called it off, said he had not met any resistance, and they shipped us back to the States for a 45-day leave, and we knew what that was for, because we were headed to Japan, but the atomic bomb stopped that.
That's interesting.
It was a good outfit. I have been lucky. The Lord had blessed me in many, many ways. That when the Fort Hood, Texas, the colonel said, you know, there wasn't any way out of this. You're going. They need troops over there. You're going. But I didn't. I was blessed. I don't know whatever happened to the buddies that did go. I never checked up on it.
During about the time of Hurricane Camille, you faced another crisis here on campus, and that was the integration of public schools in Mississippi, including our colleges. About what time did that start, and can you tell us a little bit about it?
I'll have to stop think about it.
I think it's about the first year you were here, wasn't it?
68. When Dr. Johnson, in 1968, Dr. Johnson ran for state superintendent of education and was elected, and I was elected president here. Then integration was a sure thing that it was coming and it was going to be enforced, and that was the end of that. But we had, again, excellent cooperation of faculty, students, and everyone, because they knew we had to integrate. First year we had 2 young men from Hattiesburg. They were fair students, it didn't cause any difficulties whatsoever, and moved on. The next year we had a number of black students, and we had no problems, and one of those was Willie Heidelberg, and there were about 7 football players in that group, And we housed them in Huff Hall on the second floor, and they had a large room there that put in double bunks, and they had their own bath, and no real problem. I got a call one day from a man, I don't know who he was. He said, "Bud, they will come get your niggers tonight." I said, "Oh my heavens." But for some reason I walked downtown and I talked with a gentleman about it. And he said, "Bud, go on back over there, nothing's going to happen." And it didn't. And I learned out later that an FBI agent walked through the courthouse and let it be known that he was an FBI agent and would be in town. And nothing occurred. We did have people that were unhappy, said that our football coach was recruiting blacks, and that was a no-no. We had some people come before the board, and there's some board of supervisors of Pearl County, and they wanted to know if we were recruiting black athletes. I said, "No, we recruit athletes. We don't recruit black or white. We recruit athletes." Well, that solved it for the time being. One night we were playing Jones, I think, up Perk. And of course, Willie Heidelberg was a tremendous athlete, and he won the affections of the people here at the college quickly. And he had a big, tall end that came with him, John, I can't remember his last name. But anyway, he caught a pass about midfield and started running, and a lady jumped up and says, "Run, boy, run! I don't give a damn what color you are, run!" And everybody hollered at him, and that broke the ice. From then on, Willie Heidelberg won the people of this community and others that black wasn't too bad. And everybody accepted the fact that blacks were going to come to college here, and we do what we could to help them, and we did. It was a very difficult situation at that time. One day, I went out there from the old administration building. There were a number of black students milling around out there, you know? And went out there and asked, what are y'all doing out here? They said, "We're protesting." I said, "Protesting against what?" They said, "We don't like the way the college is treating the blacks. We're protesting." I said, "Be specific. What are you protesting for?" "We don't know. We're protesting." I said, "Well, now, you're standing out here in a thoroughfare where students walk from the administration building, go into the classes to and from. I give you 5 minutes to break this up and get out of here, or I'm going to call the law." I walked back to my office, and in about 2 minutes, it was dispersed, never heard any more. Well, they had, just like any other students, they had routes that they could go. If they had a complaint, they would be heard, whether it was white, black, or what. And we didn't have more trouble. Students were students, regardless of color. And we've had some good black students and white students. But Willie Heidelberg made it a lot easier.
Several of our presidents have come from a coaching background. J.A. Huff was a coach here in 1922 while he was president. He had coached in other situations. We've had you coached. Ted Alexander came from a coaching background. Our current president, Dr. Lewis, came from a
Yeah.
coaching background. Is there anything that prepared you for becoming a college president that you can attribute to your coaching background?
Well, you work closer with students, and you learn how to be a leader, working with athletes.
All right. Dr. White, we had a tremendous growth in vocational and technical courses during your tenure here at Pearl River. What do you attribute that to, and could you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, Dr. Johnson started the vocational technical programs here at the college. There was a need for specialized training for industry. All students did not need a BS degree or even a 2-year college prep. So he started some of the vocational courses at machine shop, welding, and auto mechanics. And from that we grew. We were able to get some large companies interested in employing these students, and as soon as the students found out that they could get a good job if they were trained properly and applied themselves, then it continued to grow. We had training in Hattiesburg, and we put some in the high schools that didn't do too well, but it is still a part of the college, and it is a worthwhile endeavor.
I understand that there's a story about the location of the vocational technical building at the front of the campus. I don't know who told me that, but could you relate it to us? I'm sure that you were.
But Dr. Johnson was here then when they got the state money for the vocational technical building, and Paul Johnson was the governor. So he came down here and looked and asked Dr. Johnson, said, "Where are you going to put the vocational technical building?" Dr. Johnson said, "Over here, so and so." And he said, "Garvin, I want it on Front Street." He said, "Well, we'll look around and see where we can put it." He says, "No, I want it on Front Street." So they put it, the Votech building there that's facing Highway 11. It is now. It was built on Front Street.
That was an interesting story, and I wanted that to be related so that our listeners and viewers could see that.
He wanted to be sure that vocational technical education wasn't put on the back burner, so he wanted it on the front burner, and he got it.
That was one of the first buildings built in the community colleges in the state, was it not?
Yeah. Federal and state money.
And let's see, while you were here, the library was built, and the academic building was built.
Dr. Johnson had those in the mill when he left.
And also the mechanics complex and the stone brick block and stone masonry building you built over there. Also was the Adobe Holden building. I mean the Adobe Holden Stadium. Was that during your tenure?
No, Dr. Johnson.
Dr. Johnson. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to this interview?
No, sir, not anything I can think of.
Well, we certainly do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.